I had a student come into class one week and say, "Hey, Tybor, I really need to buy a car." And I said, "That's great, because I really need to sell a car. I have a car that I want to sell. Do you want to buy my car?" And we had a really nice conversation. He asked me a lot of questions about the car. He asked how old the car was. He asked what color it was, how many miles it had on it. A lot of really smart kid. He asked a bunch of questions about the features that the car had. I think he asked me, did it have a backup camera? Did it have Bluetooth? Did it have this was like 2019 that he asked me these questions. So he's asking things like, is it compatible with Spotify? Does it have a GPS? All these little things about features. He asked me if I had the service records from the car. He asked me a bunch of stuff about this car. And we agreed that based on the information that I gave him, that the car, a good fair price for the car would be about $5,000. Okay, great. So come to class next week, bring $5,000 cash, and I'll give you the keys of my car. Now, when we got to class next week, I had to tell him some news. I hadn't done this on purpose. I'm just an idiot, and I have so much stuff going on in my head that I had totally forgotten part of the story. And I said, you know what? The car, it's a year older than I had told you last week. I totally blanked on it. It's a year older than I had told you. And I think it'd only be fair if we revisit that price of $5,000. And he said, you're right. Yeah, you're right. He's like, thanks for being honest. Like, what do you want to do? And we both agreed that because the car was a year older, we were going to knock some money off the price. We both agreed that the age of a car affects its selling price in the way that for every year older that a car is, it's worth less. And then we actually had a very interesting conversation. Like, well, why is that? Why did we both agree that it's worth less? Well, if a car is older, it might not have that backup camera. It might have more rust. It might not be as cool as the car that came out the year later. I don't know if you know this about me, but I have 3 kids. If a car is a year older and you're buying it from me, that car has been thrown up in, that car has been crapped in, that car has so much goldfish and gummy bears jammed in between the seats that you will never starve if you get stuck in a snowdrift. But that is a year of grossness that makes that car worth less. It makes sense. The car is worth less. Now, I want to show you a picture. What if I had told you that exact same story and the mental image in your car was this instead of a Honda Accord or some crappy minivan? If I came back the next week and said, you know what, I screwed up. That car is actually a year older than I had originally told you. I think we should revisit the selling price. I think you'll understand that if the car is a year older, and we're talking about a car like a vintage 1950s Porsche, the car that's a year older is going to be worth more. Well, why? Because they're rarer. There are fewer of them. There were less safety regulations in 1953 such that you could drive around with a bumper like this, can't have a bumper like this anymore. You hit a bicyclist with a bumper like this, that's no bueno. Look at those tires. You can't get tires like that anymore. Look at those wipers. Guess what kind of radio this thing has? It's so cool. Guess how the windows go down? You have to crank them down by yourself. When you open up the little thing underneath the dash, guess what's in there? A little cigarette lighter. You can actually light your cigarettes, and there's an ashtray in there. That's cool. This is all cool stuff. The lack of features actually makes it cool, whereas the lack of features in my minivan make it worse. It's really interesting. The age of a car is really important when it comes to the selling price of that car. But the effect of the age of the car on its price depends. It depends on, are we talking about a vintage classic car? In that case, the age makes it go up. The slope is positive. Or are we talking about a random run-of-the-mill jalopy, a minivan, Tybor's minivan? In that case, the age of the car makes it go down, negative slope. this is a very important concept, that the effect of a variable, age, the effect of age can depend on some other variable. And we're going to explore how to model this statistically with the concept of effect modification and statistical interaction.